Christian music is ancient, which means every artist, songwriter, producer, and creative making it today isn't just making music, they're participating in something sacred and powerful, while navigating that delicate dance between making Jesus famous while honestly hoping the world notices you too. My name is Sam Hart, record producer, songwriter, and someone who's been making Christian music since the 90s. Join me and others as we explore what it means to stay faithful, healthy, wise, and fully present, moving hearts and hopefully melting faces. This is Christian Music Maker. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm so glad you're with me. So, just the other day, I realized this year marks 20 years of being full-time in music. And I also had this realization, in about a year, it'll be 30 years since I've been getting paid to do music. And all that time, I was just so passionate about writing songs, recording songs as a way to make disciples with songs, encourage people, express things I was processing and thinking through, and ultimately give God glory with music. Early on in my journey as a teenager, I made my own albums. I eventually ended up signing with the label and did a little bit of my own music. And then I was on tour with a hip hop group. That's kind of how I first entered into the industry, and I went on tour with that band and then ended up wanting to get married. I met my wife in high school, and we dated for a long time and wanted to get married. And to do that, you kind of need a way to, take care of your wife. She was working as a cosmetologist doing hair. And so together we scraped up enough to be able to kind of live and think about starting a family and all that. And while I was on tour, I had taken a job as a part-time worship leader. And then I did that for about a year until I could go full-time. God sure used that time just learning how to love people and learning what it meant to serve. I was just trying to record as much as I could and write as much as I could, and always had a home studio. And eventually that turned into opportunities to record other people and produce albums. And 6 years ago, we moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I get to write songs. Had songs recorded by Bethel and Big Daddy Weave and Aaron Schust, and on and on and on. Such an honor and a privilege, and I'm grateful. But during that 20 years, there are 4 myths that I had to unlearn. And I want to share these with you. And honestly, there's more than 4. I just want to share these 4. And myth number 1 is you have to choose between creativity and productivity. No, you don't. At one time, I think I believed that. I thought there were people that are just good at the creative side and the artistic side and expressing themselves. And then there's the administrative and the business and the planners and the executors. And that's not necessarily true. You can grow. The lie is that you're wired one way or the other. But the truth is both are learnable. Both the creative side and the administrative side can be creative acts. If you have creativity and artistic expression as a gift, you also have the capacity and the ability to be organized, administrative, and to plan and to execute on those plans. Business, marketing, finance, networking, it all requires creativity and the ability to make a plan, communicate it, execute on it, check off those boxes. And, years and years ago, I remember when I first started realizing that I didn't want to just work for someone else, but I wanted to start a business. I remember just consuming all I could from guys like Seth Godin and Michael Hyatt. And I remember Michael Hyatt saying one time that you're way, way, way more likely, and I don't remember the exact number, but the percentage is off the charts. You're way more likely to follow through on something or achieve a goal if you write it down. And that's why even to this day, I use this full focus planner. And obviously, I'm not getting sponsored by them or anything like that. They're never going to know I even shared this with you, but I've used that. And what's crazy is I look back on my full focus planners. I know they're pricey. You can get cheaper ones on Amazon that are similar, whatever works for you. But the way that these work is you write down, your top 3 goals for the day, but those help you achieve your quarterly goals, and those help you achieve your 7 to 10 annual goals. And I remember looking back on the ones that I was working on when I still lived in California in 2017, 2018, 2019, and it's crazy. One particularly, I remember I was writing down goals that I thought were near impossible, and I think there were 7 or 8 of them. And what's crazy is I ended up achieving those goals, every single one of them except my fitness goal. But here's the thing: integration is the superpower. Meaning, us creative types, we can really struggle with taking our thoughts and our plans and turning that into a strategy and then integrating that and executing on it. But that is the superpower. I think of a guy that's doing a lot of really cool stuff right now. He's a rapper. His name's Connor Price, and he and his wife work together. He has been able to take his ideas and his creativity and his music, and he has chosen to stay completely independent, even though he's selling out shows all over the world. He's doing bus tours, millions and millions of streams on YouTube and TikTok and all the rest. And he's doing all that by having a plan that he executes. So this still applies to the established artists, but early on, especially, you have to touch all of it. And I remember hearing one of my friends in the industry one time, I was attending this thing, and this publisher in the industry was just kind of coaching the room. And I remember specifically this one artist who's now got a huge song in country music, just had asked, hey, when is it appropriate to hire management? When is the right time? I just remember this industry leader saying, I recommend that you do as much of it as you can until you can't anymore. And I just never forgot that. I thought that was really, really good advice. She gave an example of how a major country star, even to this day, they still personally reach out every time there's a single that hits radio. They sit in their bus or whatever and still personally reach out to every single radio station and every single program director, and they just say, thank you. It means so much to me. Thank you for helping me get my message out there. I really appreciate you playing my song every single time. And even though this country artist doesn't need to do that, still that personal touch is probably what got him to where he is. Myth 2 that I used to believe and I don't anymore: you have to know how it all ends before you start. That is not true. The journey, it doesn't come with a map. You don't know the end. You don't know what's next. But like you've heard before, it's really hard to turn a stopped car. You have to be moving, and then turning is really, really easy. It has taken so much faith to do this thing. Every single time I felt a call to do the next thing, I never felt like I had it all figured out or that I was going to know what to do before starting. And I just had to learn to start, because years ago, for most of my life, I've kind of been a perfectionist, if I'm honest. I want to have all my ducks in a row, and I want to do an overwhelming amount of research before I start anything. And you know what? Even this podcast has been teaching me it's going to be sloppy. I'm going to be clumsy. I'm not the greatest communicator, but I have something that I really believe in that I want to share. And so I've got to start. I've got to just fail forward. And you figure it out. If nothing else, you figure out what you don't want to do. You figure out what you're not good at. And then you make a change and you adjust and you pivot. Like a mentor used to tell me years ago, you and I, we are choice factories. We can always make a choice. We can always make a change. We are never stuck. So my encouragement to you is just to do the next right thing with what you already have right now. Do the next right thing with what you already have right now. So if it's talent, use it. Maybe it's not where you want it to be. Maybe you've got a lot of work to do, but use it. Figure out the little percentage of that you can crush, that you can leverage and do as good or better than anyone else. Just use that. And the rest, maybe don't showcase yet. If you have an incredible voice, but you're not that great at piano yet, maybe just continue to grow in that skill and have someone else play the piano while you focus on the singing. Whatever it is, use what you have right now. Maybe you don't have as much money as you think you need to have, but what can you do with what you have in your bank account right now, or with the income that you have right now? Is it time? Maybe you are in a time of life where you just feel like you're spinning so many plates and you don't have enough time. But you know, there was a time when I was still leading worship full time, but I also was building the producing business that I had started. And There was maybe a year or two when, you know what? I didn't watch any Netflix. I don't know, maybe a handful of times I did, but I didn't do much else. I got up early. I just kind of like to start my mornings out centering my soul and getting my head right. And then I would go to my worship job at least 5 or 6 days a week. And I would do that from 9 a.m. till dinner or whatever. Then I would come home, spend some time with Kristen, spend some time with the kids. And then a lot of the time I would be working out in the studio. So I'd go out there after the kids went to bed, 7 or 8, something like that. And then I would stay up until probably 10, 11, 12, sometimes later, a lot of nights. And I would just put my hand to the plow, be faithful to the work, serve the clients that I did have. I had not the best laptop in the world, not the best interface in the world. In fact, someone had given me like a first generation Apollo when they were like the first ones where you had to use all these adapters to even get them to work. And you know, I had a small collection of guitars, a simple, cheap MIDI controller, and that's it. I just want to encourage you, take stock of where you are, who you have, what you have. Start with what you have and make the most of it. That's my encouragement to you. Recently, I was talking to an artist. This artist is a worship pastor at a church and has been thinking about moving to Nashville and asked my advice. Has just such an unfair advantage of not only a campus pastor at this church, but also the opportunity to become the head worship leader at the main campus. Thousands of people there that know, like, and trust this worship artist and songwriter. Not only that, has a great relationship with a radio station regionally that actually has reach for hundreds of miles and really loves this artist's music. So my advice was, if I were you, I would bloom where I'm planted, and I would steward that until it was very, very clear that God was saying, move on, before trying to rush that. Because even just from a career standpoint, sometimes it's a better move to build an organic, diehard fan base right where you are, instead of trying to come to where you're just a small fish in a big pond. And honestly, it says a lot about an artist who is able to like steward the people that are right in front of them rather than chasing the audience that's in their head that doesn't exist yet, if that makes sense. So who is right in front of you that you can steward prayerfully, courageously? Myth 3 that I used to believe and no longer believe. You build a platform to get something. That's not entirely true. A lot of people are building a platform to get something. Money, fame, success, maybe even affirmation and value. I know I used to believe that I needed achievement or I needed others to affirm me in order to feel like I was somebody, that I was important, that I was accepted, that I belonged, that I mattered. The truth is that no amount of external rearranging or achievement, size of audience, money, can fix an internal problem. So my encouragement to you, if that's you, I would encourage you to give that some attention, whether that's counseling or therapy or even just journaling through that. I would work on that because it's really not true. For me, in my early years, I was seeking affirmation from an audience out here when my greatest fans were at home and I was neglecting them. I wasn't shepherding them. I wasn't loving them. I wasn't pouring my life out for them. I was pouring my life out to get something. Maybe this is just a reminder for us that whether it's in relationships or it's in business, whatever it is, we can't give much until we've been filled up by something bigger than ourselves. I would encourage you to lean into God, to lean into accountability, to lean into growth. Be a person that's not building to get, but let's be the kind of people that are building to give and creating environments of generosity and value, high value. Here's myth number 4, and that's this. When the methods change, the mission changes too. And that's not true. Methods will always change. I was thinking back to when I first started making music, when I first started songwriting and producing. Honestly, it was in the 90s, and most music was still being made on analog consoles, either reel-to-reel tape or ADAT, which was like digital tape. There was a little bit of Pro Tools happening. It was just starting. You know, nowadays we have plugins that you can buy for $20, $100, or on a subscription, but those used to be actual pieces of gear that cost thousands of dollars a lot of times, and you had to manually insert it into your channel. There were no redos, and if you had to go back and bounce another mix of something, you had to put it back where it was, or you had to record through it and just hope you got it right the first time. There was something really magical about that I miss. But yeah, it's really different now where you can just make a whole record on your laptop, right? Different method, but the mission stayed the same. When I first started leading worship, multitracks.com wasn't really a thing. Having an MD wasn't really a thing. At that time, having guitars and drums, playing to a click track, using paper with tabs or with chord charts, or the number system, that was all really new. We had come from an era where we had just gotten out of worship choruses and hymns. A lot of churches still had hymn books. So the modern worship movement is really different than it was when I was starting out 20 years ago. The methods have changed, but the mission is still the same. See, back then it was all about connecting God and people. And now it's all about connecting God and people. It was about worshiping God. It still is. The mission hasn't changed. Man, back when I was first starting in the industry in the 90s, it was so different. It was much more about radio and billboard charts. It was much more about record labels. It was much more about physical CDs. We used to promote through magazines, not through meta ads. There was no social media. There were no iPhones. There were barely cell phones. It was just really different. So as an artist, as a songwriter, as a producer, the methods have changed wildly, drastically, but the mission is still the same. So my encouragement to you is, what is your mission? Do you know what your mission is? For me, it's still the same. Whether I'm recording this podcast or whether I'm producing an artist or whether I'm writing a song, it's still just pouring into Christian music makers so that they can pour into the people that God has put in their care. Methods change, mission stays the same. So once again, just to cover it here as we wrap up, myth 1, you have to choose between creativity and productivity. No, you don't. You can do both. And the most effective creatives, business people, human beings are the ones who can be creative and administrative and execute on plans and ideas and goals. Myth 2, you have to know how it all ends before you start. No, you don't. One of my favorite authors, Dr. Chip Dodd, says, clumsy is as good as you're ever going to get. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about progress. It's about showing up. It's about using what you have and doing the best with it. That's what stewardship is. Myth 3, you build a platform to get something. Not entirely true. You build a platform to give something, to add value, to leave the world better than you found it. Myth 4, when the methods change, the mission changes too. Not true. Methods will always change, but the mission stays the same. So I encourage you to spend some time asking yourself, what is my mission? What did God put me on this earth to do? And you know what? Put some time and investment into finding out, who did God make you to be as a human being? When you figure that out, it'll kind of come naturally to figure out, what did he put you on this earth to do? So those are 4 myths that I used to believe 20 years ago when I first started as a full-time Christian music maker. Thank God I've changed my mind about those things and I see it differently now. I hope it got you thinking and that you can implement and apply some of those things. Remember, if you're a Christian who makes music, what you do matters, whether it's for a Christian audience or a mainstream audience. In Matthew, Jesus encourages us to let your light shine before men so that they may glorify your Father who is in heaven. And that's the whole point. What you do matters. Who you are matters. Your inner life matters. So cultivate it, work on it, steward it. Your family matters. Cultivate it. Create a place you want to come back to. Create a place where your family feels safe, valued, loved, and then go out there and do what you were put on this earth to do. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. By the way, it's been so encouraging to find out and read the insights on all the people all over the world discovering this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're getting value out of this, it actually goes a long way for you to leave 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and a review. If you have the time to do that, it goes a long way in helping other people discover this. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're just starting out there. You're part of the inner circle. We would love to get to know you. So please comment. Let's interact. DM me on Instagram. I want to hear from you. I want to learn from you. Tell me what's helpful and tell me what's not about what we've been doing. Looking forward to being back with you again next week.